In June, a referendum was conducted in the year 2016, whether Britain should continue to be a part of the European Union. And with a shocking surprise, the referendum came with the approving results, with 52% consenting to exit, while the rest, 48%, refused. The phenomenon of Britain leaving the European Union was later known as Brexit, which is short for Britain's exit. What became apparent for everybody was that Britain's decision to exit the European Union was due to border issues and international matters. The real implications of such a decision was a warning sign of the beginning of a new stage, which is the stage of division of the United Kingdoms and the rise of a new phenomenon on a global level. In the third month of the year 2019, the United States President used the first veto in his state to fund the building of the wall separating the U.S. from Mexico. That was against a decision Congress had adopted to obstruct his efforts to raise the funding for the building of such a wall on the border of Mexico by the issuance of an urgent national security threat. And so the United States proceeded with its plan to build an enormous wall overlooking the whole southern border with Mexico, under the excuse of preventing the arrival of thousands of illegal immigrants and criminals and the poor from Mexico and the countries of Central and South America, accusing them of being gang-affiliated individuals affecting national security. Before the U.S. could finish building its Great Wall, Mexico proceeded to build its own wall on the border separating it from Guatemala. Following that, the United States, in alliance with Mexico, made an agreement to fund the construction of fences and barriers from barbed wire in the East Gulf of Mexico and west of the Pacific, so as to protect its water borders from illegal immigrants coming from the south, including Cuba. Before the end of the year 2020, the United States made another agreement, this time with Canada through small diplomatic meetings, to build another wall at the American-Canadian borders to prevent the merchants from smuggling and tampering with merchandise. It was obvious that the real reason behind this sudden decision for the building of that wall was to protect the interests of many rich Americans who fund most of the campaigns for the American presidency to increase their own profits. In the year 2020, the controversy between India and Pakistan had escalated at the Kashmiri borders. This ended with the building of another controversial wall that covered the whole Indian-Pakistani borders. The walls divided the United Kingdom into England and Scotland and Wales within short weeks. And another wall was built between France and Spain. Yet another divided Japan into 7 pieces. Then followed walls in Poland, the Ukraine, Russia, and Italy. In the year 2020, no new wall was built, but it was an ominous sign signaling the great explosion of the plague of our times. Social media was set aflame with dialogues and discussions, comments and programs that charged the world. The tension was so thick you could cut through it with a knife. It was the fuel that fed into a monstrous fire, and the fire of conflict burned ever brighter. Social media was making enormous profits from accepting to publish marketing campaigns that support conflict. it became an enormous source of spreading lies, rumors, and delusions regarding the importance of the walls and their benefits to their countries and nations. Its main purpose was to increase the conflict and strife so the conflicted parties could spread lies and rumors about each other. Social media firms would publish for both sides. Profit justifies the means. At the start of the year 2020, the whole world became obsessed with building walls between each other. The plague of wall building spread throughout the whole world. The United States was divided into 151 parts. Walls divided Russia into 73 parts. China was divided into 88 parts. Germany to 32 pieces. Canada into 18. India into 300. Pakistan into 77. France into 28. Poland into 37. And Egypt into 62. The easiest and fastest solution for the United Nations when such conflicts occurred was to issue legislative decisions of separation and to build walls. The profession of building walls became the most prosperous in the whole world. The plague intensified and spread with brutal force. The walls became a major part of each country, further separating and dividing into smaller and smaller pieces, until the world at the end of 2020 had been divided into more than 21,000 micro-countries. This was all done in the name of preventing illegal immigrants from threatening the national security of countries and affecting their legacy and culture. The world did not stop there. It went on to divide oceans and seas with metallic barbed wire. It divided rivers and water resources. Governments manipulated their streams and waterways. Countries went on creating conflicts with each other until the water became a scarce resource. Discrimination and injustice rose to power and fed into religious strife, and violence increased and crimes multiplied. Social media was finally cut off, and each micro-country had its own media, designed to supervise and monitor its own people. The greed, myopia, irrational thinking, and moral degeneration of the social media firms led it to stab itself in its own stomach, and it started going bankrupt. All that helped empower dictatorships that manifested in their darkest forms, and the world became more evil. Millions of people killed each other over the color of their skin or their religious beliefs and their races and origins. Slavery came back and spread like wildfire. Commerce and transportation became much harder and worse in the world, and no one cared about education anymore. The world became retarded and illiterate and declined into ignorance. For you to travel from Ukraine to Spain, an airway company had to be approved by 1,341 countries, just so a plane could pass over all the borders. Festivals, international concerts, sport events, and science conferences became extinct. People's groups were too busy dividing lands and creating selfish flags and isolating themselves with walls. The walls were an intrusion to nature. Pollution increased and led to the death and extinction of various animals, fish, birds, and insects. The global financial system couldn't keep up with the drastic changes, which led to its downfall. Companies announced their bankruptcy, and even micro-countries adopted the sole company strategy, which is the military system. The high-built walls prevented sunlight from reaching into corners. Humidity increased, as did petrification, contagious diseases, and foul smells. Agriculture was severely affected everywhere, and plenty of crops were ruined. Hunger and famine increased dramatically, in addition to contagious diseases that led to the building of more walls, as people hung on to the ideal they represented. Even the global climate was affected. Wind movements changed. Rain and ocean waves led to many tsunamis. Layers of the atmosphere dispersed. Direct sunlight became a danger to eyes, skin, trees, and all creatures. Everything changed. It was madness, and fear took over in its clearest form. When the plague arrived somewhere, it rose fear and panic into the people there, making them lose their better judgment. That plague was a curse on people's minds. People didn't kill themselves with weapons of mass destruction. They weren't enslaved by the robots they talked about with fear and admiration. They weren't invaded by aliens, and comets didn't fall from the skies. What killed them was their ignorance and stupidity, their hatred. When the world is ruled by fools, it is time to say goodbye.